Previously on balls.co.za.
The one and only Jonathan Kaplan. Give us a smile, Jono. There
so
we
serious.
go. I know, that's far better.
Yeah, I didn't even realize I was on.
No, well, you've just come on, so welcome to Blades on Balls for your second time, and we have Simon Hill driving us today, so you'll obviously get a couple of chirps from him. But
Respectful chirps, though. I hold
absolutely.
Jonathan in high esteem.
Jonathan, we've seen again Craig Gebert reffing a game overseas and that sort of thing. When you were on the international panel and doing all that Super Rugby, how many air miles did you have?
At one stage when I was counting, I clocked over 6 million.
6 million air miles.
Yeah.
6 million air miles. That's basically return Joburg, East London. That's what you can cash them in on.
Yeah, and back to Humansdorp.
Yeah.
So, Jono, you couldn't have spent much time at home.
Blades, it was about 150 to 100 to about 216 was my maximum time away from home, and the maximum number of flights in one calendar year was 133.
Wow, that's a lot of flying, hey? And obviously you would fly business class.
No, not so obviously.
Not.
So initially we were flying economy, and then for the long haul we got put onto business, and then some of the long haul was scaled back. So if you were going Sydney-Perth, that became economy as well.
Okay, that's not great. I remember when we started with the SABC going long haul at the back of the plane with Gavin Cowley and Chris Moller, the late Chris Moller, in fact, sitting at the back of the plane. And, flying, how did we fly? We used to fly Joburg, Singapore, Sydney, or Singapore, Brisbane, I think it was in 1993. And then once with Skalkberg, I flew Joburg, Hong Kong. And I think, in fact, that was when we started flying business class, was because those big boys couldn't fit into economy class seats. And,
no, it was because you were too close to the bar.
No rubbish, we didn't drink and stuff like that. We flew Joburg, Hong Kong, and then Hong Kong, Auckland, Dunedin. That was quite a trip. So, John,
Blades, I'll just quickly tell you, Dunedin is by far the worst travel. So whenever we get a game in Dunedin, we always feel like we've drawn the short straw.
Yeah.
Because the travel time to get there, I used to live in Durban, and now I'm obviously living in Cape Town. So the travel time to get there is approximately 2 days.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously you have to stop over in Sydney, or
far.
You can try and get through to Christchurch if you can catch a late flight, but it means you arrive at about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So when you guys who are listening and watching see our referees on fields overseas, it's not all glamour and glitz and the whole thing. Look, it's a wonderfully, I'm talking both from a referee and from a commentary, and I assume a refereeing situation as well. It is a wonderful privilege and a wonderful thing to be able to do, because you're doing what you love. But I can assure you it's not all glamour and glitz. I remember once flying from Buenos Aires to London to Dublin to Limerick, and arriving about 36 hours after we'd left Buenos Aires. And so, you stop over in London and you sit around for 6 hours and that sort of thing. But still a wonderful experience. So, Jono, what have you got for us in terms of the weekend's refereeing situations?
All right, so Blades, I think if we just run through the games, and if I skip out anything, you can try and highlight something. I'll be happy to answer any tweet or any question that comes through in the next few minutes.
We'll be keeping in touch with that.
So the first game was the Chiefs and the Stormers, and I think the Stormers, from an accuracy perspective, may not have played as well as they did against the Crusaders. But the reality is that the Chiefs have a lot more weapons than the Crusaders do, and they can make teams look quite average. I thought, by and large, the Stormers actually didn't play that badly, but the Chiefs are looking like championship potential again, and they have got such depth. They lose a couple of players, and they've still got fillers that are equal, if not as good, equal if not better than the originals. So I thought they were pretty dominant, and I thought Craig refed a good game. There were a couple of instances of players being taken out ahead of the ball and on the sides and fringes, but I thought it was a lot better than the previous week, and I thought he did well. The second game was the Rebels and Crusaders, and I thought it was a closely contested game, but I did think the Crusaders was slightly better. They just seem to be lacking a little bit of cutting edge. I don't know what you think there.
Well, my thoughts on the Crusaders is you can never write them off, but they always seem to start slowly, and take a little while to get into their stride. And I think the other thing is that the Crusaders for years were led on attack by Daniel Carter. And, there's no question that when you've got possibly in his time the best fly half in the world in your team, and the best fly half as an all-round player, kicking, attack-wise, defence-wise, he's going to be enormously missed. And I do think that Richie McCaw is in the twilight of his career. So they're not quite that huge force that they were, but they've always, Jono, started slowly.
They do start slowly, and what I like about them is that I feel that their pattern is still good.
Yeah.
Their pattern looks as good as it ever has. They retain the ball well. They've got a good scrum. They're fierce at the breakdown. They're a good team. They just, for me, just lack a little bit of cutting edge, and maybe Tom Taylor and Blindell will sort of slot in as the season. They'll warm up as the season progresses.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. I think McCaw I think they're trying to stretch his career out as long as possible, and I think it's probably a smart move. And obviously, Dan Carter with Johnny Wilkinson, probably the two best fly halves in all the time that I refereed rugby. So I'm sure they're missing him a bit.
Yeah.
The next game was the Hurricanes against the Cheetahs. And like I said previously, I think, Naka's been at pains to say how, talented his team is, but they still play rugby, which is far too loose for me, and they're leaking points, much more than they did at any stage last year. So that is a huge source of concern when you give away 60 points. And I know the Hurricanes, they are a dangerous team, but if I stand to be corrected, but I think they'd lost 6 or 8 games in a row prior to this one. So that wasn't a good loss from the Cheetahs. But I just want to mention a point which attracted quite a lot of remarks on Twitter, and that was the yellow carding of Billy LaRue, I think in the 44th minute of the game, for a deliberate knock-on. I don't think it necessarily changed the game or the shape of the game, but I don't feel it was a good call. I think he clearly tries to intercept the ball, and he's penalised with a yellow card. So either the referee, in my opinion, has to, and I don't think he could in this case, was to say, look, that is a cynical infringement, so I'm giving you a yellow card, and perhaps look at the option of a penalty try. But in this case, I tend to think that Billy actually made an attempt to catch the ball and just got it wrong. And I think in those kind of instances, when the ref is not sure, as he could not have been, I think it's possibly wiser to take the soft option.
But it looked like to me, Jonathan, that he was taking advice from one of his touch judges there on that one.
Yes, and that's a good point. So if the touch judge is in a better position to adjudicate on these things, we do. I'm a firm believer that we should trust them. I mean, you as the man in the middle, you can only get one perspective of something. It's not like a TV camera or multiple cameras where you can, have a look from different angles. So if we do get a better perspective from an assistant referee, then I think it's wise to trust them and go with that information. However, in this particular case, I don't believe that the correct decision has been arrived at all.
Yeah, and if you look, sorry, Blades, but if you look at Billy's reaction after he didn't get the ball, it was sort of this look of sheesh, there was an opportunity there for an intercept and I didn't grab it, not one that he deliberately tried to knock the ball down. I think you can determine by the player's body language also what he was perhaps trying to do.
Correct, and one of the things that we have to be careful of as we move in more and more into this modern era with technology and the referees that are being produced is that we don't get too process driven. That referees don't feel under pressure to try and read the game as they see it, rather than try and tick boxes. And this is one of the instances where I really feel that if you look at it again, I'm not sure that anybody can say with absolute clarity that he deliberately knocked the ball on. And obviously I'm a big fan. If you're the last man in the defensive line, and there's a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-1, and you deliberately knock it down, so then let's go for the penalty try and have your yellow card and take your punishment like a man. But in this particular case, I don't feel that it was necessarily warranted.
Okay. There's a little compliment for you here, Jono. Kevin Rogers. Thanks, Kevin, for your input. Always good to hear from Mr. Kaplan. I quite think that's pretty good. Mr. Kaplan. Then Leon Petzer. Hi, Mr. Blades and Ref JK. Can Yanni du Plessis not count himself lucky that he was not penalised for talking back to the ref?
Yes, I'm gonna get to that. There's just two games that I want to speak about before we get to the South African games.
Okay.
And both of them involved the issuing of 2 yellow cards. And I think I'd like to highlight to the public how important it is. This is the most important aspect of the game that the top referees and in fact every other referee on the Super 15 panels need to adhere to, and that is the administering of a higher sanction when teams start to push the boundaries too far. And in the Highlanders Force game, you saw Jackson issued 2 yellow cards against the Force when they started to get very willful on defense. And then the same thing happened in the Brumbies Waratahs game where Jaco Paper issued 2 yellow cards against the Brumbies for willful and cynical infringements. And I think, when teams sometimes when they get in front and they get in front by a substantial amount, they're pushing the boundaries. I mean, this is a dog-eat-dog situation, and no quarter asked and no quarter given. So it's up to the referees to step up to their plate with game understanding and work out what teams would try and do in these type of situations particularly when they're in front. And I thought in both of these instances, I'd like to compliment both referees for issuing the yellow cards, and perhaps there could have been more. There's no question, but I think they can feel very proud of that output in getting that right. I don't feel that this is being well refereed in general, and so I'd really like to give a big up to Glenn Jackson and Jaco Paper for their work in this respect. Okay. Moving on to this question on Yanni du Plessis speaking to Lawrence van der Merwe.
Yeah.
Basically what happened there, Blades, is that Lawrence is quite entitled to pull any player out, and in this case he pulled Yanni out and explain to him what his expectations are. And that's fair enough. What Yanni was trying to say, and I think he probably overstepped the mark, he got a bit aggressive and a bit smart in respect of saying, listen, don't lecture me on how to scrum. What he was trying to say is, I've been scrumming for 30 years, you haven't been scrumming for one. But the reality is that Lawrence was quite entitled to do what he did, and everything he said that I could hear was within law. So what Yanni was saying, he mentioned Paddy O'Brien's name. I mean, I'm not sure that when he got that information, Paddy O'Brien's been out of the scene for quite a while.
Yeah.
He is not manager of referees, and he hasn't been for some time. So I don't think there was a good names drop in this particular instance. And I think what Yanni was trying to say, and I totally understand this because I have spoken to a lot of tight heads about the bind, and what he was trying to say is I cannot bind too long because I expose myself to a loose head who will get in underneath me, so I have to lock him down. And as much as we would like to get classroom experiments kind of things going, where everything runs squeaky clean, I actually got a lot of sympathy for for tight heads trying to protect themselves. And in this case, I totally understood what Yanni was saying. I just think he could have said it differently. Lawrence chose to laugh it off, and I think that was a pretty smart way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
He could have penalised Yanni if he wanted to, but I'm not sure that would have achieved anything.
Sure.
There were a couple of other incidents in that game, and I see Richard Graham, the coach of the Reds, has had a spray at Lawrence for his handling of the game. I'm not going to get into that debate, but I do think there were some instances on review which, attracted a bit of attention. I think the try by Dale Chadwick, the Sharks' fourth try, there was a little bit of obstruction leading up to it. And, we complain and bitch about what happens in New Zealand and Australia with players being held back ahead of the ball and next to the side of the post-tackle situation. Well, this was an indication for me, a very clear indication of, I think it was Marcel Coetzee, but I stand to be corrected, taking out defenders ahead of the maul that could have possibly had made a positive and aggressive tackle. So, and also with the Mvovo, where Sean McLeod, where he potentially scored a try, and the referee said that there wasn't a knock-on. There was clearly a knock-on where Mvovo attempted to catch the ball, and where the ball eventually bounced, it probably went forward about 2 meters. So I think when Lawrence looks back at that, he'll have some areas for his own personal development. But like I said in my preview of this match, I didn't think there was much to choose between the teams. And even though the score blew out eventually, I still think the Reds are an exceptionally competent and well-coached team with a lot of good leadership.
Right.
I want to know how a ref after a game goes back. I'm sure he's got assessors as well and people that advise, but how does a ref go back and say, well, this I could improve on? And for example, you're in a scenario where you obviously don't believe that there is a knock on and you let play continue rather than refer. Do you say to yourself, well, if something like that happens again and I'm in doubt, rather take it to the TMO and see what he says? Is it that kind of personal check?
We can only do that in respect of scores.
Yes.
So in this particular case, Sean McLeod looked like he may have got over for a try. And then Lawrence said to Sean Feltzman, listen, I'm almost sure that wasn't a knock-on, but could you have a look at everything in and around the try? And for me, the whole thing would have been stopped in its tracks if you would have just watched Mvovo try to catch the ball. That incident took place maybe 8 to 10 meters from the try line. That is where the scrum should take place. He's clearly knocked the ball on. We don't need to look any further at anything that McLeod does, because the initial thing is incorrect. Mvovo has knocked the ball on.
Yes.
Let's go for a scrum 10 meters from the Reds try line, and let's not worry about all the other stuff. So, Simon, we do have the facility available when there are points scored, and we try and get as much right as possible. I just want to allude to, we had a fantastic Six Nations tournament. I can't stress, it was always my favorite tournament to referee, and we had everything leading up to this last game where Ireland just basically had to win the game. And France were, in my opinion, just hanging in with Ireland. I thought Ireland were actually the better team on the day. They were creative. They were dominant in some areas. And then France were pressing and scored what appeared to be a try next to the left-hand upright. The referee awarded the try without checking. He clearly arrived too late. He arrived late on the scene, so they couldn't have seen the knock-on that took place by Dmitry Shwarevsky. And I just want to point out that if, the whole tournament could have hinged on this decision being right and wrong.
Yeah.
As it turned out, the referee got it wrong, but the implications were not that serious for the tournament, because Ireland ended up winning the game in any case on the back of a missed penalty in the 70th minute by the French. But what happens if the French would have got that penalty over and Ireland would have been denied? The whole tournament, the whole shape of the tournament. In fact, the winner of the tournament is someone else. It's not Ireland. It becomes England. So, I think it's a very good question you've asked. And I think when we've got the facility of TV replay, we need to be absolutely certain. And we are moving into an era of, professionalism, and we've got to get more professional. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I'm not sure that I'm a great fan of going back 2 or 3 phases. in terms of, it's almost like you hear jackers on cricket commentary. Do we have to go back and check if it was a no ball, or, on every wicket that is taken, and that type of thing? And sometimes I'm just not quite sure whether I'm up to terms with going back 2 or 3 phases to see whether there was an infringement and that sort of thing.
But I think Jono has a point.
But I like the fact that we are using technology, and when we've got it, use it.
But I think Jono's got a point, because you can compare it to cricket as well. It's only when something happens and there's a huge outcry, that people go, well, then why didn't you go back 3 phases?
Well, that's right. Yeah, I
think Blades.
I'll agree with that.
Guys, I think the important debate here is the following: in the amateur era, there was a lot of dynamic flow in the game, and nothing was able to be checked. And referees were making decisions that you could almost never go back and have a look at it. Now, as we move into the next era, there's a lot more scrutiny, and obviously teams can't be denied based on the whims or a bad call by a referee. And the referees understand this as well. Like, we're really not interested in trying to shape the game. We're trying to get everything right.
Yeah.
But in some respects, and in this particular case, referee Walsh, he's a referee with a lot of experience, and he showed a lot of poise in a very difficult and a game which had a lot at stake.
Yeah.
But one critical mistake as he made in this game could have changed the whole shape of the tournament. And so the debate really is: are you prepared to go with the odd mistake here and there, which could result in a different winner of the tournament, or are you prepared to say, listen, we have moved into a different space, and we need accuracy? I mean, there's sometimes people's livelihoods are at stake, and so what you're worried about here and there with the slowing down of the game, as opposed to teams winning competitions, I don't think there's much of a trade-off.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, I'll go with that, and I think that's nicely explained. Now, we haven't yet hit the Lions Blues.
Give us the Lions, come on.
Blues game.
I kept it for last, Blades. Most important for last.
All right.
Okay, have you got any other points before we get to it?
No, I think I've covered most of those, most of the points in the other games. There were obviously some incidents. There were 2 tries in the Stormers Chiefs game where I wouldn't say they were controversial, but they were unusual. They were unusual tries because the ball was knocked back by a defender, and the attacker went and scored tries.
Yes, I think Aaron Cruden. I think he was involved in one.
Tawera, what's his name? The scrum half for the Chiefs scored the second try.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure the replacement centre.
Tawera
Kerbalo, he scored the second try, and just before halftime, there was another try which was scored where Kobus van Wyk tried to tackle, and as he was tackling the ball carrier, knocked the ball from his grasp. And so it was spotted by De Beer and his team, and the TMO made a technically correct decision.
Okay.
Now, can we move to the Lions game, or would you like to just...
I just want to go back, because when I spoke to you last Monday, I had not seen that Marcel van der Merwe try at Loftus, which resulted in the Bulls getting a bonus point. And I think you had made the point that there definitely was a double movement, and that the TMO had made a mistake in terms of saying you may award the try.
No, not so much the TMO. The TMO actually tried to alert the referee to the correct decision, but the referee is actually in control of the decision.
Okay.
So he can overrule the TMO. And in this case, I think the TMO was Johan Greef, and he tried to alert the referee to the fact. He said, "Are you happy with this aspect?" And the referee said, "Yes, he's happy." And then they can't get into debate and say, the TMO can't start trying to overrule the referee and say, no, well, I'm not happy. because what you're going to get then is TMOs refereeing the game and not the other way around.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's healthy. So I thought the TMO actually didn't do that badly in that game because he did try and alert the referee to that incident.
Yeah.
But clearly, that decision was incorrect.
Okay. Okay, and I mean, as a result of that decision being incorrect, I mean, there may not be immediate repercussions, but if it continues, then measures are taken against the referee.
Yes, look, in this particular case, Blades, what has happened is I said there's one or two things has happened. Either he hasn't got a clear picture of the tackle. In other words, the prop's been tackled close to the line. He cannot stretch out and score the try. He doesn't feel he can. So he uses his elbow to try and propel himself forward so that he can go and score the try. This was the clear picture of what actually happened.
Yeah.
Now, for me, this is law error. The referee has not. Either he hasn't seen the incident clearly, which is possible but not probable, but more likely he's actually got the law wrong. So this is a law error, and that for me is probably a bigger error than any other, because that is our domain. We're supposed to, understand that. It's not. I'm not going to say put him in front of a firing squad and get rid of him.
No, sure.
But clearly the Bulls have benefited. They've got a bonus point, and I don't want to hear, but all the other times that other teams did it. That's not the point. The point that's a totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
We're trying to get everything correct. So in this particular case, the referee, who I believe is probably the most improved referee on the whole circuit, Andrew Lees.
You made that point, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's an excellent referee, and he's displayed it. Over the last 12 months, I've been very impressed with what he does. But in this particular case, he's made a poor error, and Lyndon Bray will have spoken to him, and he won't feel good about it either. I mean, we don't feel like, oh God, it's last week's fixture, so who cares? We feel terrible. I remember when I made mistakes, it haunted me for weeks. I hated myself for being human in a way.
Yeah. Okay. Now we've got the. Let's go Lions.
Right.
Lions Blues. There are a couple of decisions there that I want to ask you questions about, but you fire away.
Blades, look, I'm going to hit on the main one that a lot of people ask me on Twitter. Whether this decision by the referee Stuart Berry in connection with the Lions' third try was a good decision or not. And so this is my understanding of what happened. Warren Whiteley is running down the wing. He passes inside.
To Dion van Rensburg.
Yeah, to Dion van Rensburg. Dion tries to catch the ball. As he's catching the ball, it's knocked back by a Blues player in the tackle, and he looks very disappointed that he hasn't caught the ball and grounded it. Someone else then, apparently, because I can't see this, but someone else then apparently runs after the ball and grounds it very close to the dead ball line.
That's what happened.
Okay. So technically, the referee is correct. The ball has been knocked back by a defender, not any fault of the player trying to catch the ball. And so therefore, technically, he has every leg to stand on. By law, he's not going to be proven wrong. My problem with those type of decisions is that I believe there isn't a great deal of consistency across the park.
Yeah.
Those decisions, when they happen in the middle of the field, those are always seen as knock-ons. And when we view it in connection with a try, we're looking to see whether something has technically happened, yes or no. And as long as we get more consistent as referees, this decision can be understood. Is it a good game decision? I'm not sure that it's a good game decision, but it was no different really from the Chiefs Stormers game where the ball was knocked back by Kobus van Wyk as an example, or Nick Groom in the second instance. And so we're looking at 3 tries, perhaps 2.5 tries that were scored in a similar type of vein. I know the commentary team didn't fancy the outcome, I personally think that the pass from Warren Whiteley.
Hold on. I was on the commentary team. I loved the decision. I loved the outcome.
Yeah, but you're talking about Joel there. Joel had a major problem with a huge incorrect application of the law.
And he wasn't happy.
Jono, just let me I'd ask you. First of all, I don't think there was any problem with Warren Whiteley's pass.
No, the pass was forward, Blades.
I don't think so.
Forward. I've had a look at it again.
Yeah.
It is definitely forward. The place where he passes it and where it's received is about a meter difference. If we're going to start looking at hands and things like that, okay, so I'm quite happy to say that it's a moot point.
Yeah.
But this whole problem could have been overcome if we would have looked at the pass of Whiteley and said, okay, listen, let's make a game decision. But I don't think that the referee actually got the decision wrong. And if you look at the previous, I know there was a lot of misery in the land of the long white cloud, and especially from the Blues camp in connection with this decision. But if you look at what happened to the Stormers in the Chiefs game, I think these two incidents are quite similar.
Yeah. Okay. Can I ask you now, in terms of the law, if Dion van Rensburg had caught the ball? Okay, Warren Whiteley passes to Dion van Rensburg. Dion van Rensburg catches the ball because you said in the act of catching the ball was knocked away.
Yes.
Okay, Dion van Rensburg catches the ball and he's going for the try line, and the defender, who was Luatua, knocks the ball out of Dion van Rensburg's hands.
Yes.
Is that a knock-on?
No.
It's got to be.
That would be exactly the same scenario.
No, but surely that's a knock-on. I've got the ball, and you come along and knock the ball out of my hands, and the ball goes forward. That's a knock-on.
I haven't lost the ball forward. If you strip the ball from me, so if you pull the ball from my grasp,
Yeah.
the attacker, the ball carrier, hasn't actually done anything wrong. In this particular case, Dion van Rensburg, let's say, he would have caught the ball.
I think he caught the ball.
Oh, okay. Well, let's say he did catch the ball then.
Okay, and then in the act of tackling him, Luatua's hands get onto the ball, and the ball goes forward out of Dion van Rensburg's hands.
Yeah. Blades, it's the same thing for me as the stripping of the ball. The attacker, the ball carrier, hasn't actually lost the ball. Losing the ball forward in the direction of the opposition try line implies that he has infringed. He has done something wrong. In this particular case, he was carrying the ball. The defender then came and tried to do something to dislodge the ball, which he had managed to do. And so for me, it's exactly the same as a stripping of the ball. And I'm almost sure that there was a try scored in another Lions game earlier on in the year with exactly the same scenario, with the stripping of the ball.
Okay, it's a very interesting one, because I went into my law book,
yes.
And I know the laws have changed slightly, and it still baffles me that you can't buy a law book in the CNA or Exclusive Books or any other bookshop in South Africa, which is a little. I know these days you can Google the laws and that type of thing.
Yes.
But and I'm not sure that the law in terms of knock-on has changed an awful lot. I always remember Maniki Zru. I was playing in the Springbok trials in 2 games with him, and he said, if a guy is going to beat you, if you know you're beaten on the inside particularly, knock the ball, or try and knock the ball out of the guy's hands.
Yes.
So, what's the difference?
Blades, first of all, just in connection with the law book, we love to say, let's go to the law book. Let's revert to what's written in black and white. The reality is that there are many laws that are written in that book that are not applied. I'm a referee. Okay, it doesn't make me greatly happy to say that, but the reality is that there are laws in the law book that are not applied. So, for example, for many years, and I do think that the referees and the referee bosses are making a huge effort to ensure that the ball is fed in straight now. And I think they're very serious about it. And you will see referees suffer if they're not prepared to take action. So, but for many years that law wasn't applied, but it was written in the same ink as any other law.
Yeah.
The foot up, the law with the foot up, as an example, that's written in the same ink. Another one is the ruck. When a ruck is formed, it's written in the laws that you
can't touch the ball.
You not just that you can't collapse a ruck. But how many times does a defender get into a dominant position over the ball? An attacker comes and hits into him. He can't dislodge him and then pulls him down. That happens maybe 20, 30, 40 times every game. But I've never seen a penalty for that.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is the law book, it's good that you refer to the law book, and we do have to have some framework. We do have to have some structure with which to work. But the reality is that there are a lot of different emphasis points along the way, and there are some grey areas where players rely on referee communication to get their actions correct.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So no, but I'm actually, Blades, I'm actually agreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that law is possibly grey, and we need to get some sort of clarity so that these type of incidents don't happen.
You see, if the ball is ripped, when I say if the ball is ripped, obviously if a defending player, when the players are still on their feet and he rips the ball, and let's say the ball, and he rips the ball but doesn't hold on to it, then I can say that it was, the ball was ripped out of the guy's hands, but not knocked out of the guy's hands. So I still think in certain areas, it's a touch and go situation. Has he caught the ball? Was the ball knocked out of his hands? Did he knock on? I mean, Deon van Rensburg's immediate reaction was one of serious disappointment.
Yes, exactly.
The ball then went rolling into the in-goal area, and Connie van Wyk had the presence of mind to chase it and dot it down.
Yes, exactly.
That I don't have a problem. Let's just go back to the Warren Whiteley pass.
Yes.
There's always this argument and discussion about the fact that, if you're driving along and you throw an apple out of the car window, the apple's going to land. If you throw an apple backwards, it's going to land further forward than you expect. Am I explaining myself correctly?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Just take us through that.
Okay, so I mean, this has been quite a topical thing over the last few years. There was a video put out by Australia, I think it was, which showed this exact concept that you're trying to explain. And what they said was that in many test matches, in many important games, passes that were deemed to be forward because of where they landed were not actually forward because of the way that the law is written.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's this year, or certainly at the end of last year, there was a letter sent out to the referees to say, listen, they've got to try and scale it back a little bit to not always worry, to have a look at the hands all the time. Let's have a look at the hands, because sometimes the ball was clearly traveling very, very far forward, and I think this was confusing for the public. So, it is maybe fortunate that the way the law is written, that we can judge it like it is, but in some respects also not fortunate because it leads to all this conjecture. If you said wherever the ball landed was forward, then you wouldn't have to worry about where the hands are and TMOs having a look at decisions here and there. It is a very difficult one to get absolutely 100% spot on, Blades, and I've seen many decisions that I haven't agreed with, and I'm certainly not, my word is not gospel. I think it's an area of huge conjecture. It's one of these grey areas in rugby, and I think the public really would just like it to be made a lot simpler for them.
Well, I just looked at the Warren Whiteley pass now, And it's also very difficult when you don't have the correct camera angle. So you're actually behind Warren Whiteley. So on the angle, it's already difficult to judge. The pass could leave the hands backwards and drift forward, but you can't be sure because the camera of where the camera is positioned. Whereas you look at the France Ireland game, that one French try on the angle of I think it was the one that was disallowed because of the forward pass.
Yes.
You can clearly see that was forward.
Yes, well, I agree that one was forward. I think that the referee made a good decision, and once again he made an on-field decision. He didn't wait for the TMO to input, because the referee is certainly a better rugby administrator than the TMO, but sorry, I should say a better official. But I still think that the Warren Whiteley one is forward, and at the very least open to conjecture. But I agree with you, the camera angle does play a significant role. And so you can't have cameras everywhere. So should teams be denied on the basis that you don't have a camera everywhere? And do you make a common sense decision as opposed to a technically correct decision? I mean, these are all things that often need to get put into the pot when discussing these type of incidents. And I'm not sure that there's an absolutely clear
almost foolproof situation.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm quite happy to say that, in respect of this, if the first try, if the try in the Chief Stormers game was awarded, then just for the sake of consistency, this one I wouldn't have a problem with.
Yeah.
But it does beg the question, like, what is the game looking for? Is the game looking for this kind of thing? And if the answer is yes, and like I said, I'm not saying my opinion is that important, but if the game is looking for this type of thing, so then we must try and get a lot of things technically correct.
Yeah.
But if we're looking for game understanding and game decisions and servicing the needs of the players and coaches and the modern era, then you would have to ask, is this a good game decision? When you could clearly see that even in the Chief Stormers game, the guy that scored the try, he wasn't that convinced that it was a try. He was more hopeful than anything. Yeah, and in the case of Dion van Rensburg, if you look at him, he's pretty disappointed that he hasn't managed to catch that ball and score a try.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Yeah. Jono, we just have to have some tweets from some of our regular watchers and listeners. Peter Swart, this is a compliment to you. I agree with Ref JK on the knock-on scenario, so thanks for your involvement, Peter. Also, Leon Petzer, hi Mr. Blades and Ref JK. It seems to be, he's making a bit of a statement here, Leon. It seems to be acceptable for the attacking team to be ahead of the kicker at restarts nowadays. Yeah, Leon, can I answer that? No, Jonathan, you answer that. My opinion is that the referees made a mistake. But I don't think it is acceptable. Jono, your opinion?
Yeah, like I said earlier, if we're going to apply laws, then we should try and either take things out of the law book that are not really that important, or apply all of them consistently. I don't think it's a major issue, Leon, that that players are ahead of the kick all the time. But certainly when there is a contestable kick, this is what the referees are looking for. When there is a contestable kick, we don't want the wing or anyone for that matter to be ahead of the kickoff, because it does allow them to get into a better position to reclaim possession of the ball. But it is a good point. It is possibly something that the referees just need to sharpen up on, similar to what was happening with the scrum feed for many, many years. And finally, like I said, I do believe that Lyndon, Brian, Joël Juch, and the key players in the world of rugby are actually attempting to get on top of it.
Okay, and Leon, thanks a lot. Must say that the Ref JFK insert on Balls Radio with Blades is a fantastic addition to the show and the station. Thank you, Leon. We take the credits with the blockbusters any day.
I just want to ask Jonathan, if your opinion is not that important, can we stop paying you for this feature?
You're welcome to.
Just checking. No, we value it. It's awesome to have you on the show.
Jono, just
what I'm trying to get across is that I'm giving a perspective. Often it will be a law perspective, but sometimes there's a grey area. And Blades' opinion on a strip versus a knocking the ball out of somebody's hands, that may be a very valuable point. I may disagree with him, but perhaps the law is written in such a way where it needs to be rewritten or redefined, or maybe another addendum has to come out to explain this to the unions, or the governing bodies, so that there is clarity for not just the referees, but the players, the coaches, the spectators, the public, the media, etc., etc.
Yeah, because I think there's a definite difference between a strip and a knocking it out of the guy's hands. You know, there's a rip, should we say, and knocking the ball out of the guy's hands. Jono, just I think we've done enough of the technical stuff for today, because we've been going for just about an hour now, which is absolutely fantastic. On the human side, your favourite ground?
My favourite was, there were three that stood out for me. My favourite was the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. I had some fantastic memories there, and it's a real rugby stadium. You know, it's a purpose-built stadium for rugby.
Yeah.
I find the crowd's involvement is fantastic. The pitch itself is not always great, but when they close the roof, you can always get a decent game because there's no wind and the elements are excluded. So, I always enjoyed that. And in particular, Blades, the Welsh are fantastic, with singing along and getting into the game. I really feel, it's a very strong rugby part of the world. Yeah, the others that I really enjoyed was the prestige of Twickenham.
Yeah.
Twickenham is a fantastic stadium. It's a fantastic arena for the theatre of rugby. And I didn't get many opportunities to referee there, but I really did love every time I went there. Yeah. And then obviously the Stade de France in Paris, that is probably the most beautiful stadium in the world. Also houses about 80,000 people, and when the French get into it, absolutely magnificent. Whether they're booing or singing the Marseillaise, it doesn't matter.
Or banging drums or playing trumpets or.
Yeah,
and I love it when they play there and they sing the French national anthem. I think that it is the most awesome anthem.
You know what? I asked one of my French journalist mates. The part of the lyrics go, "March on, march on, march on. Let all the blood of our enemies run through the furrows of France." I mean, it's quite a bloodthirsty situation. Andre Roux, thanks for your input. Hugh and JK, if there is one, it's not the rules. Hey, Andre, sorry to be pedantic. It's the laws. If there was one law you would change, what will that be? I mean, that's a difficult question, but.
It is a difficult question, Blades. I think the new Scrum sequence, cadence, and results. I think there's mixed results in respect of that. I'm as you well know, I'm working with UTT Rugby Club as a technical analyst in the field of referee matters, team strategy, and player development, and. In many of the games that we've that we've played, the referees have dished out an inordinate amount of penalties at scrum. And so we're getting a slant in favor of decisions being made one way or another. So I'll just give an example, and this is not that far different across each game. But we played a game recently where I think it was against Tuckies, and there were 15 scrums with 11 penalties and free kicks. So there were only 4 completions of scrum in a game of rugby.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very, very poor and damning statistic. So, I really like what the RB are doing in trying to get the scrum into better shape. I know as far as my own refereeing was concerned, I was probably more on the side of not taking decisions if I wasn't sure. Whereas I think other referees are more finite in terms of getting a decision for each instance so that we don't waste time with resets. But I still feel that the scrum has a lot of room for improvement, both visually and in terms of the understanding that the public demand.
There we go. Thank you, Jonathan. Andre, I hope that answers your question. Thanks, everybody, for your Twitters and tweets to Jonathan Kaplan about those decisions. We've had about 30 of them now. Jonathan, once again, on a Monday morning, don't forget, we will have Jonathan Kaplan giving us his ideas on the refereeing. And also, Jonathan is a keen student of the game, so not only in the refereeing situation, but on the general sides of the game. Jono, from me, thanks again for joining us on a Monday. I'm sure Simon has one or two things to say.
No, we appreciate your input, Jonathan. It's great to hear from you. And I think next week, we must just write it down, is to have a chat about what's going on at Varsity Cup level and the 2 referees and how that's working. And I see Peter Botkin tweeted us and is looking to find out whether, that would possibly roll out into, Curry Cup and perhaps higher levels as well. But we can save it for next week. I think it would be quite interesting.
Let's leave it for next week. I'm going up to Joburg this afternoon. UCT are playing the Bits, and then after that, after Monday, after tonight, the semi-finals will be decided. That's possibly a good opportunity to discuss, to discuss that then.
Cool.
Yeah, it will be fabulous. Okay,
thanks, Jonathan. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Cheers,
have a good week.
Have a good one.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.
Balls.co.za